For decades, the world has remained fascinated by the life, struggles, and unforgettable legacy of Princess Diana. Her story has been told countless times through documentaries, books, interviews, and royal investigations. But behind the global headlines was a family that experienced Diana not as an icon, but as a beloved sister, aunt, and daughter. Now, a new conversation surrounding Diana's family has captured attention. A member of the Spencer family has become the focus of renewed interest after questions emerged about the memories, emotions, and experiences that remained private for so many years. While the public has always known Diana as the people's princess, those closest to her carried a very different kind of relationship with her. They saw the woman behind the photographs, the caring aunt, the protective family member, and the person who faced enormous personal challenges away from the cameras. For many years, Diana's niece Laura Fellows remained almost completely away from public attention. Unlike some members of the wider royal circle who occasionally appeared in interviews or documentaries, Laura chose a quieter path. She did not chase headlines. She did not attempt to become part of the endless conversations surrounding Diana's life. Instead, she stayed focused on her own family and allowed others to speak about Diana's public journey. But silence does not always mean forgetting. Behind that silence were decades of memories, emotions, and unanswered questions connected to one of the most significant moments in modern royal history. The world remembers the tragic night of August 31, 1997, when Princess Diana died in a car crash in Paris. Millions watched the heartbreaking news unfold, but for Diana's family, the loss was deeply personal. They were not mourning a global celebrity. They were mourning someone they loved. For Laura and the Spencer family, Diana's death represented a loss that could never truly be explained through headlines or television reports. While the public searched for answers, the family had to deal with grief, confusion, and the overwhelming attention that followed. The tragedy created a moment that changed everything. The Spencer family, already connected to one of Britain's most famous women, suddenly found themselves at the center of worldwide attention. Every decision, every statement, and every appearance was examined. Yet many members of Diana's family believed that protecting her memory was more important than becoming part of the public debate. This was especially true for those who had watched Diana struggle throughout her life. They knew the pressure she experienced inside the royal institution. For nearly 3 decades, Princess Diana's name has remained one of the most powerful and emotional names in modern history. Her life was filled with moments of extraordinary popularity, personal struggles, and a connection with people that few public figures have ever achieved. But beyond the photographs, royal ceremonies, and worldwide attention was a family that witnessed a much more private side of Diana. They knew the woman behind the famous smile. They knew the person who carried deep emotions, personal challenges, and an incredible desire to make a difference. And that is why every time a member of Diana's family speaks, the world listens carefully. Not because they are looking for another royal controversy, but because their memories provide a rare glimpse into the life of someone who changed the monarchy forever. For years, Diana's niece Laura Fellows stayed away from the spotlight. She understood that any words connected to her aunt would immediately attract worldwide attention. A simple memory could become a major headline. A personal reflection could become the center of public debate. Because Diana's story has always carried enormous emotional weight. That is why her family members have often chosen their words carefully. They understand that Diana was loved by millions, but she was also a daughter, a sister, and an aunt. She was a real person with real relationships beyond the royal title. As conversations about Diana continue, many royal watchers believe that personal stories from those closest to her can help separate reality from the endless speculation that has surrounded her life. Throughout the years, countless theories and rumors have appeared about Diana's experiences inside the royal family. Some stories focused on her marriage. Others focused on her struggles with public pressure. And many focused on the tragic circumstances surrounding her death. However, official investigations examined the events surrounding the Paris crash and reached conclusions that have remained the accepted findings. Despite this, public curiosity has never disappeared. The reason is simple. Diana's life represented something much larger than royalty. People saw themselves in her struggles. They admired her courage. They connected with her compassion. And because of that emotional connection, they continue searching for a deeper understanding of who she truly was. For Diana's family, the most important goal has always been protecting the truth of her character. They want people to remember the woman who visited hospitals, held the hands of people suffering from illness, and used her position to bring attention to forgotten causes. They want people to remember the mother who tried to give her sons a different experience of life. A mother who wanted William and Harry to understand ordinary people and the challenges they faced. Those lessons became a major part of Diana's influence on the next generation. Even today, her impact can be seen through the charitable interests and public work of her sons. Although William and Harry have followed different paths in recent years, both have repeatedly acknowledged the importance of their mother's values. The family connection between the Spencers and the royal family remains complicated, but Diana's memory continues to create a shared bond. Her relatives have often avoided taking sides in royal disagreements. Instead, they have focused on keeping family relationships alive and preserving the qualities Diana valued most: kindness, understanding, and compassion. These values have become more important as discussions about Diana's legacy continue. One of the most emotional parts of Diana's story is how her family handled the years after her death. While the world mourned publicly, her relatives experienced a much more personal grief. They lost someone they knew privately, someone whose presence could never be replaced. The pain of that loss shaped many decisions they made afterward. Rather than constantly speaking about Diana, many family members chose quiet remembrance. They believed that actions could sometimes say more than words. Through family gatherings, charitable efforts, and protecting Diana's memory, they continued honoring her in their own way. The Spencer family estate, Althorpe, also became an important symbol of that remembrance. For many visitors, the location represents more than history. It represents a connection to Diana's childhood, her family roots, and the person she was before becoming one of the most famous women in the world. But preserving a legacy of this size is never simple. A question has remained for years. Should Diana's story continue to be shared openly with the world, or should certain memories remain private? There are arguments on both sides. Some believe that sharing personal memories allows future generations to understand Diana beyond the headlines. Others believe that respecting privacy is the ultimate way to honor someone who lived so much of her life under public observation. This challenge is something Diana's family has quietly managed for years. They know that millions feel a connection to her, but they also know that she belonged to a family who loved her long before the world knew her name. That balance between public interest and personal grief is one of the hardest parts of protecting Diana's legacy. And now, as younger members of the Spencer family continue growing older, new perspectives may emerge. Future generations may tell stories that have remained private for decades. They may share memories that show Diana not as a royal figure, but as a loving relative who influenced everyone around her. Because perhaps the most powerful part of Diana's story was never the title she carried. It was the humanity she showed. She proved that a person with enormous privilege could still connect with people from every background. She showed vulnerability in a world that often demanded perfection. And she reminded millions that compassion could be one of the greatest forms of influence. That is why her story continues. That is why people still gather to remember her. And that is why any new words from her family create such strong emotions. Princess Diana's niece speaking after years of silence is not simply another royal headline. It represents something deeper. It represents a family continuing to process a loss that changed their lives forever. It represents memories that survived decades of silence. And it represents the ongoing effort to protect the legacy of a woman who left an unforgettable mark on history. Whether future revelations bring new details or simply provide a more personal understanding of Diana's life, one truth remains undeniable. Princess Diana's influence has never faded. Her kindness continues to inspire. Her story continues to be discussed. And her memory remains alive through the people who loved her most. The world may remember her as the people's princess. But for her family, she was simply Diana. A sister, an aunt, a mother, and a woman whose compassion continues to touch millions around the world. They understood the difficulties of living under constant media attention. And they knew that after her death, there was a responsibility to remember the real person behind the title. A woman who cared deeply about others. A mother who loved her sons. And a person who wanted to be understood beyond the image created by the world. Diana's family members often described her as someone with extraordinary warmth. She had the rare ability to connect with ordinary people, whether she was visiting hospitals, supporting charities, or simply speaking with those who felt ignored. That compassion became the foundation of her legacy. And it was a legacy her family wanted to protect. Over the years, Diana's nieces and nephews grew up with the knowledge that their aunt was one of the most famous women in history. But inside the Spencer family, she was not just Princess Diana. She was family. She was someone who laughed with them, supported them, and created personal memories away from royal ceremonies and public appearances. That private Diana is the one many members of her family have always wanted people to remember. However, the passing of time has changed the way many relatives view their decision to remain silent. When Diana first died, emotions were raw. Speaking publicly could have created more pain or attracted unwanted attention during an already devastating period. But decades later, a new generation wants to understand Diana's story from a more personal perspective. Not through rumors, not through speculation, but through the memories of those who actually knew her. The continued fascination with Diana's life has also kept questions surrounding her final years alive. People remain interested in her struggles, her relationships, and the challenges she faced before her death. Her family has often walked a careful line, honoring Diana's experiences while avoiding unnecessary conflict. They understand that Diana's story belongs not only to them but also to millions of people who felt connected to her. That connection is one of the reasons Diana remains such a powerful figure today. She represented vulnerability, kindness, and courage in a world where royal figures were traditionally expected to appear distant and perfect. Diana changed that. She showed emotion. She admitted difficulties. She used her position to highlight issues that many powerful people ignored. And that human side is what made people feel they truly knew her. But for her family, there was another side to Diana, the private woman who worried, dreamed, and cared deeply for the people around her. Her relationship with her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, was especially important. Diana wanted them to grow up understanding compassion and humility. She wanted them to experience life beyond palace walls and recognize the struggles of ordinary people. Those values became one of the strongest parts of her legacy. Even today, both William and Harry have spoken about the impact their mother had on their lives. Although their own relationship has faced difficulties over the years, their shared love and respect for Diana has remained clear. The Spencer family has also continued to play an important role in preserving Diana's memory. Her sisters, Lady Sarah McCorquodale and Lady Jane Fellows, have traditionally maintained a private approach, rarely seeking attention but remaining connected to Diana's children and grandchildren. Their quiet support reflects a different kind of loyalty, one that does not require constant public statements. They have honored Diana through family traditions, charitable work, and by keeping alive the values she represented. Meanwhile, places connected to Diana's story, including the Spencer family estate at Althorpe, continue to attract people from around the world who want to feel closer to her memory. For many visitors, it is not simply a historic location. It is a place connected to a woman whose influence continues decades after her death. Yet with that continued interest comes a difficult question. How much of Diana's private story should the world know? And how much should remain protected by the family who loved her? This question has followed the Spencer family for years. Every new interview, every personal memory, and every revelation connected to Diana creates a wave of public interest. Some believe sharing these stories helps people understand Diana more deeply. Others believe protecting her privacy is the greatest form of respect. Now, as Diana's family members continue to reflect on the past, the balance between truth and privacy becomes more complicated than ever. Because behind every royal headline is a human story. And behind Princess Diana's legendary image was a family that experienced love, loss, and grief in ways the public could never fully see. The world knew Diana as a princess. Her family knew her as someone much more personal. Someone whose laughter, kindness, and struggles created memories that lasted long after the cameras stopped recording. And as new conversations emerge about Diana's legacy, one thing remains clear. The story of Princess Diana is far from finished. Her influence continues to shape the royal family, inspire millions around the world, and remind people that compassion can leave a legacy stronger than any title. But what exactly has Diana's niece chosen to reveal after years of silence? And could her words reopen emotional chapters that many believed had been closed forever? The answers reveal a deeper story about family, loyalty, and the lasting impact of the woman the world still remembers as the people's princess.